Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm Tucker, and that is Abram. And today we are continuing our series of retrospective on the classic Mario games on our quest to decide which is better. A three-part quest. And this is part two of that three-part quest. Which is better, Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World? And today we're going to be talking about Super Mario World. Card in the corner to our Super Mario Bros. 3 review. But we're just going to be pumping this out. And I pumped out my playthrough of Super Mario World. I started it last night. I was on a phone call with you, and I am already done with it.
I have played this game very many times over the course of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way I played it most probably was the Super Mario Brothers Advance cartridge,
Sure.
but I didn't beat it until this year
Okay.
when I played through it in the time, a very short time frame like you, in the time that I got my Final Fantasy VII Remake preload installed, through the time my power went out until the power came back so I could start playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. And during that like 48-hour window, when fucking Maine was in the midst of a big storm, I blasted through this game too.
Mm-hmm.
So we
How
both
did you
played it.
play it? Where did you play it?
My fucking Switch,
Okay. Super Nintendo
SNES
Online.
Online. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we both played the game recently. You've played it more recently than me, but I played it back in April, which is
As of
when.
about 4 hours ago.
Sure, I've played it as of about 6 months ago. So
Okay.
we're both relatively fresh on a game that
Yeah.
came out 11 years before either of us were born. Um, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm very excited for this conversation for multiple reasons. I'm excited for your reputation to take a fucking nosedive
Okay,
after this video because I believe that it probably will because
probably.
hearing the few things that you've said about this game, shake up the 8 ball. Yeah, the prediction not looking too good. What the I don't know what fucking 8 ball say. When was the last time you used a fucking magic 8 ball? Who knows?
Yesterday.
No, that's a falsity. But one thing I did do recently was play Super Mario World.
Oh wow, my glasses are
Um,
itching the bridge of my nose.
and as someone who is relatively fresh on on original classic Mario platformers, I have
Sure.
in the past week beaten 3 Land and World. And I might as well hop onto either Yoshi's Island or Super Mario Land 2.
Both
Uh,
excellent choices.
yes, but those two are coming up. Um, I like this game a lot, but there is just a disconnect from it personally that I think we're gonna not necessarily have the longest video when it comes to deciding which is better. Yeah, good game though. I like Super Mario World. Give it an 8 out of 10 on Backlogged.
Super Mario World is a good game, undisputably. But I am personally notorious for my dislike of Super Mario World.
Fun fact is, I didn't know that till about yesterday, and I'm
Yeah.
only like pieced it together. You've never told me that explicitly, so I would not say you're infamous for that.
Well, in my own head, I'm infamous for it because it's one of my hotter video game takes.
Yeah.
I think Super Mario World is a solid platformer that is nowhere near the creative heights of Mario 3. And I think that by merit of it being basically the only Super Nintendo launch game of consequence outside of
Yeah.
Pilot Wings, so like
Yeah.
I said, the only one of consequence, it got a bigger reputation than it deserves because when you look at 3 and World next to each other, and when you look at World in comparison to the other platformers on the platform around it,
Sure.
I don't think it holds up as well.
Yeah. I would like to put it out there that we should refrain from as much comparison as we can to save that for the video where we're going to discuss that.
But here's the problem. I think that my problems with it derive from comparison. So it's possible
Same here.
that we might be in part 2 and part 3 of the review series right here.
Oh my God. That's kind of crazy.
Because I have to say, it's hard for me to talk about what I dislike about World without contextualizing it against 3. And it's difficult to not contextualize it against like a Yoshi's Island or a Donkey Country also.
Sure.
Because when you look at the game in a vacuum, I think it's a lot stronger than when you put it in the lineage of Mario and when you put it in the pantheon of Super Nintendo platformers.
I agree. I was only saying that because I'm on the same page as you. My disconnect from this game, it's not a dislike. in almost any regard. I clearly am going to like this game, be a lot more positive on than you are. But my disconnect from it stems from the fact that I did enjoy 3 so much. And I was only putting that out there to try to rein myself back. But if we're just going to go whole hog, are we going to do the comparison here? I don't know. Who knows?
Well, I think we have to.
Yeah.
And we like the views, right? We like the views, but I think it'd be a disservice to this discussion in particular if we didn't talk about the way that the map is nowhere near as good as 3.
Yeah.
The ideas it introduces are nowhere near as interesting.
Yeah.
It strips away a lot of what's interesting about 3 and replaces it with a fairly safe Mario platformer.
Yeah.
I just put a lot of it on the table.
No,
I just put a lot of it on the table.
There's a lot of tables and a lot of things on said tables.
Sure.
But I'm gonna be positive about this game.
Okay.
Right? I'm going into this game thinking I loved 3 so much. I'm gonna hopefully really enjoy World. I see World get a lot of praise, but a lot of general praise, not a lot of specific praise. And I think that mostly comes from nostalgia because playing this game, it is very good. As you said, it's a good game. It's a very solid, but it is compared to the first 3 Mario platformer games, relatively generic, relatively simple. Doesn't add as much new stuff as those other ones. It's not as big of an evolution. And I think that lack of next level creativity coming off of 3, which is next level creativity, is why I'm not glowing about this game.
Yeah. I think we should start with the place that you begin in the game, which is the world map, which is also where we began talking last time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the world map in this game strips out a lot of the agency that you had in Mario 3.
Sure.
For me, this feels more like a level select. It feels on a cohesive sense, it's cool that it's one big island. I think that's interesting visually.
Sure.
But when you get to in a gameplay sense, you really are just picking levels.
Yeah.
And of course you can go up and you can hit the fucking button to activate the different blocks and what have you. But largely it doesn't have that level of challenge, and the overworld doesn't have that sense of engagement that the map in 3 does. And
because it doesn't have the interactivity.
Right. And I think that's a big negative against the game, especially considering how strong that aspect was.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think that 3 feels like a more ambitious experience than World.
I agree. And I think that's what I was getting at earlier. It's not the leap that the other ones were.
Right.
But I do still think, while I have my issues with some things that it causes that I'll get into later, I like the world map for this game. I think it's really well animated. It's really well drawn. I think that there's a lot of little fun details around it that I enjoy. You know, when you beat Morton, he like spews off into the background, and then the hill in the background gets a little dent on its head, a little bandage. There's a lot of fun little details like that I do enjoy. And in that regard, it's a lot better than 3, which was pretty blocky and a lot of repetitive textures and things of that nature. But it does lack a lot of it, as you said, the interactivity. But also, I think that it leads to the game being really samey. Everything takes place in what in other Mario games would be one world. Dinosaur Island would be a world in another Mario game, and there would be 8 levels based around Dinosaur Island. But in this game, they stretch that theming a little bit too far for my tastes. And you don't get an ice world, a desert world, a grass world. You don't get any special places, really. It's just forest, cave. I don't know exactly.
That's an interesting
thing. Chocolate Land. What the fuck? I don't know what it's called.
That's an interesting point, because I think in some respects it makes the game feel a bit more unique going back to it, because you avoid the new Super Mario Brothers biome aesthetic. Which I think is nice. But at the same time, you contrast this against Card in the Corner Donkey Kong Country, or especially having just played Donkey Kong Country 2 personally. Those games have the cohesion, but they back that cohesion up with variety.
Yeah. And
the other thing they have is an organic feel to them that I don't think that a lot of the levels in World have.
Yeah.
For me, World, to draw a comparison to other platformers I've talked about, this feels way more obstacle course based to me than a lot of other platformers, especially its contemporaries on the platform. And of course, it was a launch title, and it would have been interesting to see what another SNES specific Mario game would have done with the hardware.
Yeah, not Yoshi.
Right. Specifically another Mario platformer.
Yeah.
I mean,
That would
I'm
have
glad
been
we
really
got
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad we got Yoshi's Island because I fucking love Yoshi's Island. But looking at 3 and then moving to World, I just feel like it's lacking. I
Yeah.
just do.
Um, Although I do want to say that we're bringing up the two sides of the same coin deal that I brought up in the Super Mario 3 video. I like the world map because I dislike the world map because of what it drains away in terms of visual and mechanical and thematic
Hmm.
uniqueness and creativity. But I do like the fact that it is one place, that it's interconnected, that you are not just plopping out from world to world.
Right.
And you are traveling around this island in sort of a spiral shape, and you're exploring the different areas. And I do think that that is pretty cool. I just
That is
wish that
cool.
that island was more varied, because when it does try to go for certain themes like Vanilla Dome or Forest of Illusion, they're just the baseline versions of those themes, being like cave, mountain, forest. They're not really anything super special. And honestly, they don't lean into the dinosaur aesthetic as much. If they were, they could have really gone, they could have had an Ice Age world with saber tooths
That
and
would have been
woolly
cool.
mammoths. They could have had levels based around different brontosaur necks or stegosaurus plates or things like that. There's a lot of cool stuff they could have done with the dinosaur island aesthetic, but there are a few dinosaurs in the game. There's the Triceratops boss where they're on a fucking merry-go-round.
Hmm.
There's the ones that spit fire. There's Yoshi's. There's the little stupid purple guys, which I hate. That
They're the
take two
lava
hits.
dragons or
Oh yeah,
lava
the
dinosaurs, which
Blarg.
I really
Yeah,
like.
the
Yeah.
Blarg is very cool. That's probably the best enemy from this game, in my opinion. There's not a lot of, because I loved the creativity and the enemy design in 3. This
Hmm.
does not have that. There's new enemies. Almost none of them are as iconic. Um, they don't have that unique flair, and it's not a huge knock against the game because it works fine mechanically. I'm kind of coming down on this game when we talk about it. Uh-oh.
I do think one thing that I do appreciate, even if Galoombas are a little bit silly, I like that the game has a unique feel to it visually.
Mhm.
That's one thing I don't think you can take away from because you don't have your Goombas. Sure, you have your Koopas, but I
A lot
remember
of fucking Koopas.
a lot of Koopas. But even the Koopas operate a little bit differently the way they hop
Yes,
out of their shells.
that's true.
So I think the enemies, while there's not the breadth of them that I would have liked, I always remember the fact that there's Galoombas and there's the fucking purple dinosaurs you have to hop on twice for whatever reason, or the fucking hunker down and walk around like this for a little while. So I do like that, but I think that segues nicely into the actual levels,
Yes.
which I'm curious to talk to you about because you were talking about how in 3 you wanted a little bit more than just straight platforming, and I think that the ghost houses are a nice example of that. I don't know how you feel about those.
Yeah.
I hate them.
I'm coming at this from a different perspective. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the ghost houses. I think there's some of them that are cool. I think the one where
Mhm.
you end up going outside of the level, you go in the door and you pop back out, and you have to run on top of the areas that you were going through. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of meta, and it
Mhm.
spices up that concept. But they are, aside from that, the ghost houses are kind of the problems that I had with the airship levels
Mhm.
in 3, is that they are all visually identical. You get that same cutscene going into the door with the dumb bush in front that looks like it was drawn in MS Paint. I hate that fucking bush. I have a screenshot of it. I might layer it over this video if I remember. I hate that fucking bush. Don't know why. That bush pisses me off. But other than that, honestly, I liked this game being more straight platforming, and I
Okay.
think that that is because I prefer how Mario controls in this game personally. I miss his tinkle. I miss the fucking P meter speed boost you get at the end. I really wanted that. Every time I started going fast, I'm like, where's the little extra speed boost? But other than that, I really do like the way that Mario jumps and has control in the air and things of that nature, which made it a lot more fun for me to play these levels that are more straight platforming. And I like the obstacle course nature of the levels that were straight platforming. So when I was taken out of that and put into a level that is just caves that are all brown, they were just not that exciting. And it really didn't feel like it matched what the game was best at.
I've always taken personal issue with the mechanical feel of World. I
Mhm.
like that it differentiates itself and has its own physics engine. But for me, I found it a little bit too slippery. I've never really preferred this control feel
Yeah.
to 3, but that's really subjective.
Yeah.
I do like that the developers decided to reinvent the way Mario feels for the next generation at the time. So that is nice.
Yeah.
Um, but I really find myself without a ton to say about the platforming because it feels a little bit more reductive. It feels like we're going back to concepts we had before, and I don't really think it does anything new from a gameplay perspective to service the player in a different way. I think that the power ups are really reductive, which
Yeah.
is frustrating. And I think that
How
this
many power-ups are in this game is my question. As
it's
far as I know, there are 2 new ones.
really most of the game you're playing Fire Flower or Cape. That's
Yes.
pretty much it.
And technically, there's a Starman, which makes you invincible. Those are pretty rare, though. It's a lot rarer
Yeah.
than the other games. And there is the fucking pea balloon, which makes you puffy.
That's true. That's really situational though.
Yeah, I mean, I only saw that once in my
Yeah.
entire playthrough.
Here, this is kind of an interesting point to draw, but I find myself way more engaged by the mechanics of world in Super Mario Maker than I do in the context of its
Sure.
own game.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because the spin jump is the big new feature here, but the spin jump is so underutilized
Yep.
from a mechanical perspective. You hop into Super Mario Maker and people are doing something as basic as you got to jump across thwomps, or maybe you have to jump off of spine or the single spinies. I forget what they're
Yes.
called, but you
You
don't
can
really
also jump off of Spiny. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, with the spin jump.
no, you can do it here, but my point is in Mario Maker, people do that for a very specific pointed platforming challenge. In World itself, it just feels like, okay, here's a new idea, but it's so situational. I don't even really find myself using it that often. I find that it doesn't surface its own mechanics well enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, there's a lot about this game that I really do enjoy, and I've been crapping on it too much. I have my notes pulled up side by side on my computer screen, and there's a lot more positives than there are negatives about this game. A lot of my criticisms of it come from how much I enjoyed 3, as I was saying, but I'm just going to rapid fire a few of these.
Okay.
I do think that the concept of hitting the switches and unlocking the blocks and giving you new ways to interact and access levels that you've already been to or upgrading ones that you haven't been to yet. I think that's really cool. I think
Sure.
the secret exits is a great idea. It does lead to this game being very short if you mainline it, but the idea of being able to find new areas of the world if you are paying attention enough to the platforming challenges or what's going on in the environment, that's a really cool concept.
Also, way less esoteric than warp whistles in 3.
Yeah.
I don't think anything can beat warp zones in Mario 1.
Yeah.
But the secret exits I think aren't better than the whistles for
Yeah,
sure.
that's true. I'm of 2 minds on this. I do enjoy Yoshi. I think that that's a fun mechanic. I mean, essentially that's a new power up in all, if you can consider it that. I I think Yoshi is a great idea. I think the mount is cool. I think what it allows you to do. I think that you can get wings to attach onto him. You can use them as an extra jump. I think that's all really cool. I don't necessarily like how he controls too much, and it kind of feels like I'm taking a hit in terms of how much control I have over my character as a unit when I do hop on Yoshi. But I do like how he animates. I like that it's an extension of Mario's moveset, and I like that it adds percussion to the soundtrack. I think that's really cool.
I think Yoshi's implementation in the world is one of his best in the entire Mario series.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is because for there are exceptions, but you can carry him between a lot of levels.
Yes.
Which is not something you can do in the new Super games. You can I think you can bring baby Yoshis around in New Super, but you can never bring regular Yoshi around. So I think that's nice. I think aesthetically he's fun. I think that there's fun little things like how you can eat a red Koopa and then fire fireballs back out. There are interesting things, but again, I don't think that the platforming services him enough.
Yeah.
Because since you can carry him between levels, he's more of an additive power up opposed to a something that becomes intrinsic to how levels are designed.
Yeah, exactly.
So he becomes a fun bonus instead of an integrated part of the game, which is again why, to bring my point back up, I'd rather play a Yoshi level in Mario Maker 2.
Sure. Yes. That's very, very reasonable. Yeah. But I'm just gonna keep firing off these. One of my biggest criticisms about 3 that world certainly improved on: boss battles. No more fucking boom boom. No more same room Koopaling fights. There are 4 different kinds of Koopaling fights in this, and then the Bowser boss battle. So it definitely mixes it up a lot more. I think that the ones that they have are pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan of the one where you have to knock them off the off the floating platform, but the other three I do really enjoy going up the walls, popping out of the pipes, and shit. What's the last format? I can't remember.
Is there bouncing on the balls, or is that New Super? I don't remember.
No, but whatever. I do like the majority of the boss fights in this. A plus to Nintendo for actually adding boss variety.
I think that's one of the best final Bowser bosses too. On the boss's
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
I prefer
Multiple
this to
phases.
I prefer this to baiting him to jump down the
Of
pit in
course. Yeah,
3,
same here.
and using the throwing mechanic with the Mecha Koopas. I think is just good fun.
Yep. I also one thing I really love, one of my favorite aspects of this game. Every time you beat a mini castle with Koopling in it, there's a short cutscene afterward. You save the egg, and Mario does fucking something to each castle. Each one's unique. They're sometimes kind of meta. They're really funny. They're really clever. I mean, that's just a great touch. And there's some text below it that's usually kind of charming and witty and tells you what you're going to be doing next. And that was just a great little touch that they didn't have to add. And it alleviates a lot of the another issue that I have with 3, where beating each world felt the exact same because it was the exact same cutscene, the exact same dialogue, the exact same animations. And so that was something I was very surprised by. And I think that's the reason I liked it so much, is because it was fixing something from a game I already really did like a lot. I mentioned that I really like the way Mario controls in this. The map's in an integrated place. I really like the use of foreground in some of the levels, especially the forest levels where there are tree trunks in front and in back of you, and you feel like you're going through them. I think that's very cool visual mechanic. And another thing I like is some of the level specific mechanics in this, or the ones that I feel like are really clever but are kind of underutilized. There is the little bean sprouts that grow out of the radishes that you can boing off of. Those are really fun. I love those. There are the little pink corners that you run up walls. I really wish those had been used more. The platforms that have the timer on them that go for a bit and then it counts down and they disappear. That's really cool. There's the angled platforms. There's a lot of angles in this game, almost to his detriment in some places, because when it's like spikes on the ground, that's just not fun to run over. But when there are platforms like this just to spice up the environment, I do think that that's very fun.
Flappy panels are fun too.
Oh yes, and then of course the the fence that you can climb on and slap it and go on the other side. That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah, that's a great mechanic. I mean, it takes advantage of the Super Nintendo's power and the idea that you have perspective and the rotating animations, all that. I think that's really cool. Yeah, there's a lot of this game that I really do enjoy. I don't want to make it seem like I'm tearing it apart too much, but honestly, your criticisms I agree mostly with. I do think that I just had a more fun time with this, probably because I enjoyed the platform mechanics and the controls of Mario a lot more than it seems like you did.
I mean, like I said, I enjoy them, but I just think that we're coming at it from we talked about this last time too, but we're coming at it from a different perspective than a lot of people. Going back to the game instead of having played it and then having other things build off of it. So I think that does inform a lot of the fact that, I would rather put another 15 hours into Super Mario Maker 2 and get almost to 100 in that game, which I absolutely fucking adore that game, than go here.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I do love Mario 3. Keep in mind, you should watch that video, because just because we have things like a Mario Maker 2 doesn't invalidate, I think, what 3 does so well. But for me, I just don't think World does enough so well that I wouldn't prefer to be playing something else.
And this is an interesting game. This is a one that I think that I'll enjoy more on repeat playthroughs. I think now that I know the idea of wanting to pay more attention to the levels, to find the secrets, to find the switches that let you interact with future levels in different ways, I think that I'll enjoy future playthroughs a lot more of this game, because these levels are ones that I enjoy bouncing around in, and the better I understand those layouts and the mechanics, I think it'll be a lot more fun. I don't see myself playing it anytime soon because I've got so many games planned, but I'm very glad I actually beat it. But I kind of want to end this, or at least transition to the fact that this game is really short.
Yeah, it's a quick one.
Yeah, it was very interesting to me to be able to beat it in 2 sessions. It's just inconsistent lengthwise. You get some castle levels that or Koopaling castle levels that are back to back. Like there's one where there's only 2 levels in between it. And it just doesn't make much sense to me. Like this is their big franchise where they were going all out for the new platform, and they seem like they've removed a lot of the content. I mean, a lot of it is hidden behind secret exits, but the fact that mainlining this game doesn't take very long is very interesting to me. And also, there's not an eighth world. There's not a Bowser world. You just
Yeah.
go straight from the Lemmy fight to Bowser. And I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't understand the Bowser level, by the way. I don't get that level.
First, to the point about length, I actually prefer a shorter game, just personally. I'd
Mhm.
rather have a game that's a little bit shorter and more replayable. So
Sure.
the length is not necessarily an issue for me. I think what's more frustrating is the way that scope is affected.
Yeah.
Because for love talking about it, Star Fox 64 is a very short game,
Hmm.
but it uses that length to still have an experience that's grand in scope.
Hmm.
You don't feel like because you can run through that game in 2 hours that you're not going on this intergalactic, really fun space opera adventure, because you still are. But I do feel like to an extent, I don't want to talk about it. To an extent, I feel like that scope is affected in Mario World.
Yeah.
It's cohesive, like we were talking about going around Dinosaur Island, but I don't think it feels as grand as a Mario 3 by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and in some ways, World is to as Sunshine is to 64. And comparing the variety that 3 and 64 have to the more cohesion but lack of variety.
Well, the reason I'm not on board with that comparison is because I think from a gameplay perspective, Sunshine is so unique from 64
Sure.
that gameplay variety gives it such its own flavor that both games stand apart.
Card in the corner, Mario
Card in
Sunshine
the
review.
corner. I think that 3 and World are just on a parallel track, both trying to be more straightforward platformers, but one just does it a lot better than the other.
Sure.
That's why I feel when we were talking about Sunshine, I very seldom was comparing it one to 64 or Odyssey or Galaxy.
Of course,
But
yeah.
but when I talk about World, I feel like I have to talk about these other games.
True. Yeah. Um the last thing that I want to mention. Oh, well, can you explain the Bowser level to me? Do you remember much of it?
Not really.
Okay, well, the
It's
concept,
I do. That's the one with all the different doors, right?
yes,
Yes. Okay.
but you can just go to door 4 and door 8, which is what I did, and it makes it a super short level.
Yes, there's if you just look it up, there's a really easy way to get through it.
I think I
That
might have done that accidentally on my first playthrough.
yeah, that's I just had to connect those fucking mental synapses. That's one of those if you know type of deal. So you got
Oh shit, we're on a cutout.
so yeah, if you know, you know. It just it's in, I don't think it's inherently a bad concept to have a final gauntlet where you go through different challenges in an
Mhm.
order you pick, but it undercuts itself by the fact that there's clearly a best way to go.
Yeah.
Um,
I
it
was
just
thinking
it's
that I went to door 4 first, and I was
mhm,
thinking, okay, I go to door 4. In my mind, I was like, maybe this will take me to the next set, or
yeah,
maybe I'll have to pop back out, beat 3, beat 2, 1, beat 2, like finish
no.
all those before I move into the next one. But I don't think clearly you don't have to, because I didn't have to. I only did 2 rooms and then I got to Bowser.
Yeah, it certainly feels like an anticlimax. It's an interesting idea, but one I don't think is executed on properly.
Yeah. Um. Final point. And I'm gonna put some quick footage of this. I'm gonna layer some footage over this. I'm gonna download some off of YouTube. The Forest of Illusion secret level has the most motion sickening inducing scrolling background I've ever experienced in a video game. I wanted to finish it so I could get back and go do other crap, but I was sitting there with my eyes barely open because I felt like I was going to throw up looking at that level. And I have no idea who thought that was a good idea, but it is bad. It is so bad.
I honestly don't remember that level. I will say one thing I do want to say is I do think that the pixel art in this game is lovely
Yeah, it's very good. Ooh,
on the whole.
yeah. One thing is this game has my favorite single sprite of anything ever, in any video game. And it is when you're doing the underwater levels, there's these little purple fish that when you're far away from them, they sleep. And when they're sleeping, they sit there. They got their stupid fucking fish lips up here. They got a big fucking belly. They got their little feet fins sticking out underneath them. They just look dumb as shit. And I love that sprite. I love that sprite. Very random, but I love that sprite.
There's so many good. The sprite work on Super Nintendo in general is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Donkey Kong Country 2 sprite work. Shout out to Kirby Dreamland 3.
Okay.
Got great sprite work too.
I'm not
Both
opposed
better
to
games in
playing.
the world.
I'm not opposed to playing some Kirby games at some point.
You got to play Superstar. It's not an SNES classic. That's an essential review for us to do at some point.
Okay. All right.
But I don't want to cut you short, but I'm basically done.
I'm done too. That was my note.
Here's what I want to say. Like I said at the beginning, this is a good game. There is a good game here, but it is a game that is absolutely cannibalized by comparison.
Yeah.
Not only comparison to Mario 3, but comparison to games like Kirby Superstar, Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, Yoshi's Island, Mega Man X. There are so many platformers on the Super Nintendo that I think are just better than this game.
Sure.
And I think Mario 3 is just better than this game.
Yeah.
I think it is a cohesive and fun platformer, but I just don't think it differentiates itself well enough. I don't think it stands out well enough. And I think it, as someone going back to the game, I don't find much to latch onto here that I couldn't latch onto somewhere else.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm going to come at it from a very similar angle. I'm a lot more positive on this game, but I don't think that it is near the top of my Mario list. I prefer every Mario platformer that came before this one, that being Super Mario Bros. 2, American 2, 3, and Land. I like Land more. I have a much more personal connection to that game, even though I just played that a couple days ago. But I had a better experience with that one, and I felt like, I was just sort of discovering this gem that not a lot of people talk about. World, on the other hand, great game, but a lot of people talk about it. And I feel like in comparison, I was underwhelmed to a degree, even though I enjoyed a lot of it and a lot of the things that it did. But coming fresh off of 3 and Land, which are two platforms that I very much enjoy, World just didn't take that next step that I really wanted it to. And I think that if I end up playing more mainline Mario platformers, 2D platformers that come after it, I'm going to quickly realize that trend continues because we go straight from World into the new series.
Of course, before we get to the new series, of course, it came out.
Yoshi's Island.
We'll leave Yoshi's Island.
Yes.
But we also have, I think it came out after World. Don't fucking quote me on that because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to look like a fool.
Oh.
But I think 6 Golden Coins is after.
Yeah. I
and
think
6
so
Golden Coins fucks. That game is awesome. And I don't want to hype it up too much for you, but I think you are going to absolutely adore it.
I really hope I do. And as someone who is just getting into these Mario platformers, I'm excited for a game that really does something different.
Absolutely does something incredibly different. It's my favorite 2D Mario.
Yeah.
Lovely video game.
I might start that today. Uh-oh. We'll see. But thank you very much for joining us, guys. We gimped our own third video in this video, but who cares? Who cares? We got the information that needs to be out there. The definitive decision is that 3 is the superior Mario game. Sorry, Super Mario World. Let's get an sorry, Super Mario World, but yay for Super Mario Bros. 3, yay! I don't know why I did that, but we're running out. We're running out of the proverbial steam here. So thank you for watching, everyone. We'll see you guys in another video.
Goodbye. Fucking awesome. I almost threw up when you did that. Do you call it the SNES, the SNES, or the Super Nintendo?
I don't do SNES. Anyone who says SNES, I want to fucking rip their throat out. They don't deserve vocal cords. My grandfather's Honduran. Well, he's dead now, but he was Honduran.
On that note.